All right, let's talk about something huge for any subscription business, automating revenue. We're going to dive deep into the SAP billing plan. You know how those big companies manage these super complex multi-year contracts and somehow never miss a single charge? Well, this is how they do it, and we're going to break it all down.
So here's our game plan. First, we'll tackle what I called the recurring billing headache. You know the one. Then, we'll get into the solution, the automated billing plan itself. We're going to go under the hood, see how it's built, and then walk through a real-world example with a company called TechCloud. Finally, we'll talk about the real magic, putting your revenue on autopilot.
Okay, first things first. Let's talk about the big problem here. Because honestly, in today's subscription world, the old ways of billing, they're just not cutting it anymore.
I mean, think about it. How do you bill a single contract that's got a one-time setup fee, a monthly subscription, and an annual charge? Now, imagine that, but for thousands of customers. The complexity just goes through the roof, right? And the chances of making a mistake, they get huge. So how on earth do you keep all of that straight?
And look, this isn't just some abstract idea. This is a real problem. For any company juggling tons of subscriptions, trying to manage this with spreadsheets, it's just a recipe for disaster. It leads directly to what's called revenue leakage. A wrong date here, a missed charge there. These little things add up and become a massive hole in your bottom line.
So what's the answer? You can't just throw more people at the problem, right? That doesn't scale. The real solution is smart automation. And that's where the hero of our story comes in, the SAP billing plan.
So what is it really? Think of a billing plan as a smart blueprint for a contract. You set it up one time. It's a core piece of bigger systems like SAP Convergent Invoicing, and its job is simple. It tells the system exactly what to bill and exactly when to bill it. After that, it's completely hands-off. It just works, creating all the right charges automatically. So what can it do for you? Well, for starters, it automates all those recurring charges, monthly, yearly, whatever you've got. It can handle a multi-year contract from start to finish without a single hiccup. It'll even schedule those one-off charges way out in the future. At the end of the day, it's all about making sure your billing perfectly matches your contracts and getting rid of almost all human error. All right, let's get a little more technical. Let's pop the hood and see what this thing is actually made of. We're going to check out the key parts that make all this automation happen. It's actually pretty simple. A billing plan really has two main pieces, the header and the items. The header is kind of like the who and the when. It says who the customer is and when the contract is active, the start and end dates. Then you have the items. That's the what and the how much. This is where you list out the actual charges, like the setup fee or the monthly subscription, and their amounts.
The whole process flows in a really logical way. You create the plan, you add your items, all the different fees and charges, then, and this is the most important part, you release the plan. Releasing it is basically like hitting the go button. From that point on, the system is on autopilot. It starts generating these things called billable items on all the scheduled dates. These are just the individual charges that later get rolled up into a neat, professional invoice for your customer. And to keep track of everything, the plan has a simple status. It might start as new or in process while you're still setting it up. But the one you really need to remember is R for released. Because nothing, and I mean nothing, happens automatically until you flip that switch to released. It's your safety net. It gives you total control over when the automation actually starts.
Okay, enough theory. Theory's great, but let's see this thing in action. We're going to walk through a super common real-world example to make this all crystal clear. This is where you'll really see the power of it. So here's the scenario. Imagine a company, we'll call them TechCloud Solutions. They've just signed a 3-year contract to provide cloud services to their customer, ABC Corporation. This is a textbook subscription deal, right? But look at the pricing. It's not just one simple fee. There's a $5,000 setup fee right at the start. Then there's a $1,200 subscription fee every single month. And on top of that, a $2,500 maintenance fee once a year. So you've got 3 different kinds of charges on 3 totally different schedules, all for one customer. This is the exact kind of thing that would be a nightmare to track manually.
Okay, so let's build the billing plan. First up, item number 1. This is the easy one, the $5,000 setup fee. We just tell the system to charge it one time on the very first day of the contract. Done. Set it and forget it.
Next, we add item number 2. This is that core monthly subscription. We set the amount to $1,200 and tell the system to make it recur every month for the entire 3-year life of the contract. And here's where it gets really cool. That one single line we just entered, the system is now set to automatically create 36 individual monthly charges. 36 with zero manual work. Nobody has to set a calendar reminder or run a report for the next 3 years. It's just handled.
And last but not least, item number 3, the annual maintenance fee. We'll set this one for $2,500 and tell it to recur every January for each of the 3 years. Simple as that.
So now we have all 3 items loaded in, the one-time, the monthly, and the annual. The whole financial picture of the contract is there. And now for the final simple step. We just change the plan's status to released. The second we do that, the autopilot is officially on. The entire 3-year billing schedule is now locked in and automated.
So that's the how. We've seen how it works. But now let's talk about the why. Why does this even matter? How does this one piece of automation actually impact the business in a big way? Let's talk about that power of autopilot.
Okay, the business benefits here are huge. Let's break them down. First, automation. You're taking so much manual work off your team's plate and basically getting rid of human error. Then there's accuracy. You're billing the right amount at the right time every single time. That means better cash flow and way more reliable forecasting. And finally, scalability. This is the big one. It doesn't matter if you have 100 contracts or 1,000,000. The system scales effortlessly.
Really, when you boil it all down, it's about this incredible transformation. You go from a manual process that's just begging for errors and chaos to a precise automated system. You get control and you get predictable, reliable revenue. And that's the whole point.
And that really brings us to the big takeaway here, this idea of automating complex, repeatable work. It applies to so much more than just billing. It's about looking at your own work, finding those patterns, and asking, could a system do this better? So I'll leave you with that question to think about. What financial process in your world is ready to be put on autopilot?